The bell above the diner door rang once, sharp and lonely, and then the sound seemed to die before it could echo. Every human inside the small spaceport diner froze. Plates stopped halfway to mouths. A spoon slipped from someone's hand and clattered to the floor, far too loud. They had arrived. 5 dragons stepped inside, their massive bodies forcing the doorframe to creak. Their scales were dark and scarred, marked by old burns and deep cuts that never healed right. Faded symbols glowed faintly along their chests and necks, tattoos burned into scale and bone during a war most people tried to forget. Their eyes were ancient, heavy with years of fighting and killing. These were not young dragons. These were veterans. Behind the counter, a young human woman stood very still. Her name was Elara Voss. She wore a simple diner uniform, sleeves rolled up, hair tied back in a loose knot. Her hands shook, but she pressed them flat against the counter so no one would see. The dragons looked around slowly. One of them let out a low breath, smoke curling from his nostrils. The smell of heat and metal spread through the room. Humans, one dragon said, his voice rough and deep. Still hiding behind walls and grease. No one answered. Elara swallowed. This was her job. Serve food. Keep calm. Do not run. Running made things worse. She picked up a menu and stepped away from the counter. Each step toward the dragons felt heavier than the last. She stopped at their table, which creaked under their weight. "Welcome," she said, keeping her voice steady. "What can I get you?" One dragon laughed. It was a harsh sound, like stone grinding against steel. "You get brave when you're small." Another dragon leaned forward. The glow of his chest tattoo brightened slightly. It was a symbol Elara knew well. She had seen it many times before, burned into memory. Elara's breath caught. The dragon noticed her stare. "You recognize it?" he asked. "Of course you don't. Humans never do." She should have looked away. She should have apologized. She should have gone back to the counter. Instead, the words slipped out before fear could stop them. "My mom has your tattoo." The room broke. Every sound vanished at once, as if space itself had gone quiet. Even the hum of the lights seemed to fade. The dragons did not move. Their eyes locked onto Elara, sharp and sudden. The one who had spoken slowly rose to his full height. He was taller than the others, his scales older, darker. Scars crossed his face like broken lines. His name was Crindle Threx, though Elara did not know it yet. "That is not possible," he said. Elara felt her legs weaken, but she stood her ground. "I've seen it my whole life." Crindle stepped closer. Heat rolled off him in waves. "That mark is earned in fire. No human survives it." "She did," Elara said quietly. The other dragons shifted, claws scraping against the floor. One of them growled. "She lies." Elara shook her head. "I don't." Crindle studied her face. He was not looking for fear. He was looking for truth. Slowly, his voice lowered. "Describe it." Elara closed her eyes for a moment. "It's burned across her shoulder and back. Same shape. Same broken edge on the left side. It glows when she's angry. Or when she remembers." The glow on Crindle's chest flared bright. The diner patrons watched in silence, afraid to breathe. "That mark," Crindle said slowly, "belongs to my unit." Elara opened her eyes. "Then you saw her." Crindle's claws curled into the floor. Memories rose uninvited. Fire raining from the sky. A collapsing station. Dragons screaming as hulls tore open. And a human woman, bleeding, standing in flames that should have killed her, dragging wounded bodies toward safety. "No," he said, though doubt had entered his voice. "She died." "My mom never died easy," Elara replied. One dragon slammed his tail against the ground. "Enough. We did not come to hear human stories." Crindle raised a claw, silencing him. His gaze never left Elara. "What is her name?" "Mara Voss." The name hit him like a blade. The glow on every dragon in the room brightened. Crindle took a step back, disbelief mixing with something older and heavier. "That human carried my brother from fire." Elara's throat tightened. She said a dragon once shielded her with his wings. Crindle exhaled slowly. Smoke filled the air. "He died." "I know," Elara said. She never forgot. For a long moment, no one spoke. The war felt close again, like it was happening just outside the diner walls. Finally, Crindle bowed his head. "Just slightly. Just enough. You spoke a truth that should not exist," he said. "That makes you dangerous." Elara's hands trembled again. "I didn't mean." You did, Crindle said. And the universe heard you. He turned to the others. We will eat. The tension did not fade, but it changed. The Dragon's Saturday. Ilara moved on shaking legs, taking orders she barely heard. As she walked back to the counter, her heart pounded hard. She knew one thing now, with absolute certainty. Her mother's past had just found her. And the dragons were not done listening. Ilara stood behind the counter, trying to breathe normally, but the heat from the dragons made it impossible. Their massive forms filled the diner, their glowing tattoos a constant reminder that these were not ordinary creatures. Every eye in the room was on her, waiting. Waiting for what, she did not know. Maybe for her to explain. Maybe for her to vanish. Crindle Threx leaned back in his chair, though his enormous size made it look more like he had sunk into it. He studied her carefully, the glow of his chest tattoo pulsing slowly, like a heartbeat. Explain, he said simply. How does a human have the mark? Ilara swallowed. Her voice shook, but she forced it out. It's my mother's. Mara Voss. She survived it, somehow. She has the tattoo, the same as yours. She told me about it. She told me that one day I might need to say something, that humans could be remembered. The words hung in the air, heavier than any meal or smoke. One of the younger dragons hissed through his teeth. Impossible, he said. Humans never survive it. None have. None could. Ilara shook her head. She did. She survived your fire, your attacks, your war. She saved others while she burned, and the mark stayed on her. Crindle's eyes narrowed. He leaned forward, resting his clawed hand on the table. Your mother, she was there. Yes, Ilara said, her voice gaining strength. She was there. She saved people, dragons, even soldiers you thought were lost. She was brave, stronger than anyone I've ever known. The other dragons muttered among themselves. Their voices were low, rumbling like distant thunder. They shared glances, uncertain, confused. They had lived centuries, seen countless deaths, and yet here was a human claiming a truth that shook every memory they held. Crindle's glow pulsed faster. We buried her. We thought she died in the orbital collapse. His voice was low, almost a whisper. She should have died. We saw it. We watched fire consume everything around her. She did not die, Ilara said. Her hands gripped the counter so tightly her knuckles whitened. She fought through the flames. She carried wounded dragons and humans alike. She never stopped moving, never stopped fighting. One dragon's tail slammed against the floor. The vibration made cups and plates rattle. You claim your mother survived the impossible. Yes, Ilara said, firm now. And she survived because she cared. Because she didn't give up, even when everything was against her. The youngest dragon, his scales still bright with youthful color, leaned forward. What did she do after? Did she fight humans too? Ilara shook her head. No. She helped. She healed. She hid from those who wanted to kill her. She kept herself alive so she could protect others, dragons and humans both. And she raised me to remember that kindness matters, even when it seems the world has forgotten. Crindle's breathing slowed. The air between them felt thick, almost solid, with tension and disbelief. The mark, he said finally, is not just fire. It is memory. It is survival. It is a bond that should only exist between dragons and those who face them in battle. Yes, Ilara said softly. She earned it, even if the universe thought she could not. And now, it is why I am here. The other dragons shifted uneasily. One of them, a massive silver-scaled male with jagged scars, growled low in his throat. You humans, you pretend you are small, weak, and forgetful. But perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps strength is not only about fire and claws. Ilara felt a shiver run down her spine. She had never imagined dragons could respect humans. Not like this. Not after all the stories of war. Crindle looked at her directly, his eyes sharp and ancient. Where is she now? Ilara swallowed again. I don't know. She disappeared years ago. Taken by someone else. She left me this story, this mark of memory, to tell you. To remind you that humans don't forget debts, and we do not stop trying, even when the galaxy says we should. The dragons fell silent again. Their glowing tattoos pulsed in unison, almost like they were communicating without words. Crindle exhaled smoke, a long, slow stream curling toward the ceiling. If your mother lived, then everything we believed about the past, he stopped. Words were not enough. The history they had carried for centuries suddenly felt incomplete. You don't have to believe me, Elara said. But it is the truth. She survived. And she taught me that even when dragons and humans fight, there is room for understanding. For respect. For remembering what matters. The youngest dragon, the one who had first doubted her, finally spoke again. And you have this story too? Elara nodded. Yes. I carry it with me. And now, I carry it to you. Crindle's claws tapped the table, slow and deliberate. The diner seemed to shrink around them, the ordinary hum of appliances and chatter gone. Only the dragons and the human remained. He studied her carefully, the glow of his tattoo brightening as he processed the impossible truth. It seems, he said finally, his voice low but steady, that humans have always been more than we believed. More than we feared. And perhaps, more than we respected. Elara's heart raced, but she held her ground. She realized she had done something no human had done in centuries. She had spoken truth to dragons, and they were listening. Not with anger, not with hunger, but with something older, something heavier. Crindle rose to his full height, his eyes never leaving hers. You carry her courage, he said. And you speak her truth. Perhaps it is time the galaxy remembered humans differently. Elara felt a spark of hope, small but bright. Her mother's past was no longer just a story whispered in the dark. It had found its way into the present, into the hearts of dragons who had thought they knew everything. And for the first time, she understood that the line she spoke, the one that froze the room, was only the beginning. The dragons leaned back, still cautious, still wary, but the room no longer felt like a trap. The story of her mother had opened a door. And the dragons, veterans of countless wars, had paused long enough to step through it with her. The diner felt alive in a new way. Not with fear, but with possibility. And Elara, standing behind the counter, knew that this encounter would change everything, even if she did not yet understand how. The diner had quieted. Patrons slowly returned to their meals, pretending not to notice the dragons still sitting in the corner, their glowing tattoos casting soft light across the tables. Elara wiped her hands on her apron, but her mind raced. She could feel their eyes on her, especially Crindle's. It was as if he was weighing every word she might speak next. After a long pause, Crindle finally leaned forward. His massive head lowered to the table, and his amber eyes glimmered with curiosity and memory. Tell me more, he said. About your mother. About the mark. About why it exists on her. Elara took a deep breath, steadying herself. The tattoo, it is not just a mark of battle, she said carefully. It is a symbol of a bond. A bond between those who face death together. Humans, dragons, even others who fight with courage. My mother earned it by risking everything to save lives, even when there was no chance to survive. The dragons exchanged looks. The older ones, veterans with burn scars and chipped scales, lowered their heads slightly. Their glow dimmed and brightened, a slow rhythm that seemed like thought itself. Crindle's eyes softened, but they still held fire. Humans were never meant to survive our attacks, he said. We saw to it that none would live if they were in the way. Yet your mother, she did. Yes, Elara said. She carried wounded soldiers, dragons, anyone she could save. She moved through flames and smoke that should have killed her. She never hesitated. And when the war ended, she didn't stop. She carried the memory of every life she saved. She carried the mark as proof, not for herself, but for the dragons she protected. Crindle's claws drummed lightly on the table. A human who faces fire and does not die, who earns the mark of a dragon, is not just brave. She is bound to us now. A debt has been created that cannot be ignored. Elara felt her stomach tighten. Debt? She asked. Yes, Crindle said. His voice was low, almost reverent. A debt of fire and blood. When a life is saved at such a cost, a bond is formed that lasts beyond time. Your mother saved dragons who had no reason to survive. We owe her. And now, you. She blinked. Me? You carry her courage, he said. Her memory. Her truth. And by speaking it to us, you remind us of our own debt. The galaxy would have buried it, forgotten it, called it impossible. But you have forced us to remember. And now we must act. The younger dragons leaned forward, their eyes wide. They had only known humans as prey or obstacles, small creatures meant to be ignored or conquered. But this human girl, so small and unarmed, had reminded them of something larger. Something that had been lost. What do you mean? One of them asked. Act. Crindle's tail curled around the leg of the table. Your mother was taken from us, he said slowly. Not killed, but removed. carried away by those who feared the bond she created. She survives still, somewhere, but under watch. They think they can erase her influence, her courage, her story. They are wrong. Ilara's heart pounded. You're saying, you want to find her? Yes, Crindle said. And we will. The debt is clear. Humans who save dragons do not do so for reward, and dragons who owe life do not ignore it. We will find her. We will honor her. And we will ensure that those who think they can erase history understand that courage and kindness cannot be hidden. Ilara felt a rush of something she had never felt before. Pride. Fear. Excitement. All at once. I don't know how to help, she said. You have already helped, Crindle said. By speaking the truth. By carrying her story. By reminding us that humanity is not to be underestimated. That your species has strength we have not fully seen. You are a part of this now, whether you like it or not. The dragons stirred, their massive bodies shifting in the diner. The glow of their tattoos pulsed faster, like a heartbeat in sync with Crindle's. It was a rhythm that filled the room, vibrating through the floor and walls, a sound of old memory and new determination. Ilara looked around at the other dragons. Some were younger, inexperienced, their scales still bright and unscarred. They looked at her as though seeing something impossible made real. The veterans, their bodies etched with war, seemed quieter, more thoughtful. Something was changing in them. Something about how they viewed humans, about what humans could do, about what they had missed for centuries. Crindle rose slowly from his chair, the diner creaking under his weight. He moved closer to Ilara, and the heat of his presence pressed against her skin. The galaxy believes dragons are eternal, humans are weak, and debts are meaningless, he said. But your mother has proven all of that wrong. And you are now part of the proof. Ilara's fingers clenched. So, what happens now? Crindle exhaled smoke, a slow curling stream that filled the air. Now, we find her. We protect her. We ensure that no one can undo what she has done. And we make certain the galaxy understands that humans are not small. They are not weak. They are bound by courage, memory, and loyalty in ways that even dragons must respect. One of the younger dragons tilted his head. So humans can be our equals. Crindle's gaze met the young dragon's. Not just equals, he said. Allies. Partners. Those who repay kindness with courage. That is what your mother taught us. And now, you carry that lesson forward. Ilara swallowed hard. She had never imagined such a thing. That humans could be seen this way by dragons. That courage could bridge centuries of fear and war. But here she was, standing in a diner on the edge of space, with dragons listening and learning, all because of the story her mother had left her. Crindle stepped back, towering over the table. Prepare yourself, he said quietly. The galaxy is about to remember something it should never have forgotten. And we will lead the way. Ilara nodded. Her heart raced. She did not know what would happen next. But one thing was clear, she had spoken a truth that had changed the course of lives, the course of dragons, and maybe the course of the galaxy itself. And the debt of fire and blood that her mother had earned would now be repaid. For the first time, she felt that humans, dragons, and courage could all stand together, and that nothing, not even the oldest war, could erase what her mother had begun. Ilara had never been on a ship like this before. It was enormous, older than anything humans had built, with metal that glowed faintly and engines that hummed like a sleeping beast. The dragons moved through it with ease, their claws gripping walls and ceilings where humans would have slipped. Crindle led the way, his massive wings folded neatly along his back, his glowing tattoo pulsing like a heartbeat. The other dragons followed, each one still wary of her, but also curious. Ilara walked behind them, keeping her distance, but she could feel the weight of history pressing down. This ship had carried dragons through centuries of war, and now it carried a human who had spoken a truth that none of them could ignore. Crindle stopped in a large room filled with screens and maps. This is where the galaxy hides its secrets, he said. Where it buries what it fears the most. And what it fears, is your mother. Ilara's stomach dropped. She had always wondered why her mother had disappeared. The rumors she had heard as a child were terrible, stories of humans taken, experimented on, or erased from records. But to hear it from a dragon, to hear the words spoken without fear, it was almost too much to bear. She is alive, Crindle said, his voice low. But they have hidden her away. The Galactic Coalition does not want humans or dragons to form bonds. They see it as dangerous. They try to erase history, erase courage, erase truth. But they cannot erase what she left behind. Ilara nodded, her hands trembling. How do we find her? Crindle moved closer to a screen, showing a galaxy map filled with blinking lights and signals. We traced the energy left by her mark. It is faint, almost gone, but it still exists. It is a trail of courage and memory, something your mother left behind that no machine can erase. The other dragons leaned over, curious. They had spent centuries fighting humans and controlling territories, but now they were listening to one small human girl who held the key to something greater. One of the younger dragons spoke. Are we going to fight them? Crindle's eyes darkened. Yes. If necessary. But this is not a battle of conquest. This is a battle of truth. A battle to show the galaxy that courage cannot be hidden, and that humans are not weak. Ilara's heart pounded. She had never held a weapon, never flown in space, never faced dragons in war. But she felt something rise inside her, a determination her mother had passed down. I will help, she said. I don't know how, but I'll help. Crindle's gaze softened slightly. You already are helping. By remembering. By speaking. By being here. But now, we take the next step. The ship began to hum louder, engines shifting as if it were waking from a long sleep. Ilara watched as the stars outside moved faster, distant worlds flashing past in streaks of light. The dragons moved around her, preparing for the journey. Some checked the ship's systems, others flexed their wings. It was strange, she realized, to see creatures so old, so powerful, follow her lead in a way they had never followed a human before. Crindle turned to her. The coalition believes that humans are small, forgetful, and weak. They do not understand that humans remember kindness, repay cruelty, and act when the galaxy says they cannot. Your mother proved this, and now, we will prove it again. Ilara nodded, swallowing her fear. She had always known her mother was brave, but she had never imagined dragons themselves would honor that bravery. Now she understood that courage could cross species, cross centuries, and even challenge the galaxy itself. The younger dragons watched her closely. Do you really think humans can change the galaxy? One asked. Ilara looked at them, her voice steady. We already have. Just by surviving, by speaking truth, by not giving up when everything says we should. My mother did it. And now, I will try too. Crindle's tail tapped the floor, a slow rhythm that seemed like a heartbeat for the ship. Your mother created a debt. A bond of fire and blood that the galaxy cannot ignore. And now, it is time to repay it. We will reach her before they erase her again. The ship sped through space, past planets, through asteroid belts, past patrol ships that tried to stop them. The dragons moved with precision, and Ilara clung to a railing, heart racing. She had never felt anything like this, the speed, the danger, the weight of history pressing down. And yet, she felt alive in a way she never had before. Hours passed, or maybe days. Time felt strange in space. The galaxy outside was vast, full of stars and darkness, and somewhere in that darkness, her mother waited. Hidden, watched, forgotten by everyone but the dragons and now her. Finally, a signal appeared on the main screen. A faint glow, barely detectable, but unmistakable. Ilara felt her stomach twist. That's her, she whispered. Crindle nodded. Yes. She is alive. And she is waiting for us. Ilara took a deep breath. What happens now? We go to her, Crindle said simply. We face whatever the galaxy has set to stop us. We show them that courage cannot be hidden, that kindness cannot be erased, and that humans are not small. They are powerful in ways even dragons must respect. The other dragons stirred, wings unfurling slightly, scales glowing brighter. They had prepared for war countless times before, but this was different. This was not about conquest. This was about justice, memory, and truth. Ilara felt a spark inside her, a mixture of fear and hope and determination. She had never imagined she could change anything, let alone join dragons on a mission to reclaim her mother from the galaxy itself. But now, she knew that courage could carry even the smallest human into the heart of the stars, and that sometimes, the galaxy itself could be challenged by the strength of one person's truth. And so the ship moved forward, faster than ever, carrying dragons, courage, and a human girl determined to reach her mother before the galaxy could bury her again. Ilara gripped the railing tightly, feeling the hum of the engines under her hands. Somewhere out there, in the darkness, was the woman who had survived impossible fire, who had carried life through death, and who had left a mark no one, not even the galaxy, could ever erase. And Ilara was ready to find her. The dragons landed their ship in a hidden clearing on a remote planet. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and metal, but to Ilara, it smelled like hope. Her mother's faint signal had led them here. Mara Voss was alive. Somewhere inside a hidden facility, she waited, held by those who thought they could erase her influence, her courage, her story. Ilara's heart pounded as Krindle and the other dragons formed a protective circle around her. Their massive bodies blocked every entrance, their glowing tattoos bright and steady. For centuries, dragons had been feared as unstoppable warriors. Now, they were guardians, ready to fight for a human. Stay close, Krindle said. The coalition believes humans are weak. They do not understand courage or loyalty. Your mother taught them lessons they refused to learn. We will show them what humans can do. Ilara nodded. She gripped the edge of her coat and stepped forward. She had never fought in her life. She had never flown among dragons. But she had her mother's courage, and she knew it was enough. The facility loomed ahead, a grey fortress of metal and blinking lights. Guards patrolled, unaware of the approaching dragons. Ilara's breath caught. How do we get her out? She whispered. Krindle's wings flexed, casting shadows on the ground. We do what dragons do best. Strike quickly. Protect life. Show strength that cannot be ignored. The younger dragons roared softly, a sound that carried through the clearing. The guards looked up, panic spreading, but it was too late. Dragons fell from the sky, landing with precision, their claws and wings moving like lightning. Alarms rang, but the dragons ignored them. Their target was one, Mara Voss. Ilara followed, ducking behind the tail of a massive dragon as the guards scrambled. She saw her mother inside, older now, hair streaked with silver, but still standing tall. Mara's eyes widened as she saw her daughter and the dragons surrounding her. Ilara. Mara whispered, disbelief in her voice. You came? Ilara ran forward. I promised I would find you. Mara smiled, a mix of relief and pride. And look what followed you. The galaxy thought it could hide the truth, erase the bond, but it cannot. Krindle stepped forward, his glowing tattoos bright against the metal walls. No force in the galaxy can erase courage. Or kindness. Humans carry it in ways even dragons must respect. We will take her home. The dragons created a shield around Mara and Ilara as they moved toward the ship. Guards tried to stop them, but the dragons moved faster, stronger, unyielding. Plasma beams glanced off scales, sparks flying, but not a single dragon fell. The facility shook as if the universe itself had taken notice. Once inside the ship, Mara held Ilara tightly. I never thought I would see you again, she said, voice shaking. But you carried my story. You reminded me, that courage can survive anything. Ilara hugged her mother. I just spoke the truth. That was enough. Krindle watched quietly, his massive head tilted. The galaxy has always underestimated humans, he said to the other dragons. They see strength in fire and claws. But they do not see it in courage, in memory, in the choice to protect life even when death is certain. Humans teach immortals that strength is not only about power. It is about heart. Mara stepped back slightly, examining the dragons. You listen. You remember. You honor what humans do, even when the galaxy does not. I thought it was impossible to change centuries of fear. But you understood. One of the younger dragons lowered his head. We always thought humans were small, weak. But we see now, they are dangerous in ways we never imagined. Dangerous because they remember, because they repay kindness, because they act when the world says they cannot. Ilara smiled. That is exactly what my mom taught me. That's why I could speak the truth to you. That's why I could bring you to her. Krindle exhaled smoke, slow and steady. The galaxy will hear this story. And they will remember. Not because dragons force them, but because humans have always carried something stronger than fear. Courage. Loyalty. Memory. That is what makes them unstoppable. Ilara looked at her mother. I think this is just the beginning. Humans will not be ignored again. Not by dragons, not by the galaxy. Mara nodded. Yes. And now you understand why courage matters more than any weapon. You have learned what I tried to teach you. Humans may be small, but they shape the stars in ways no one expects. The dragons prepared to leave the planet. Ilara and Mara stood together on the deck, watching the stars blur past as the ship lifted off. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, vast and full of danger, but also full of possibility. Do you see that? Krindle said. The galaxy is not only ours to survive. It is ours to teach. And humans will teach it lessons it has never forgotten. Ilara looked at the stars, feeling the wind of space against her face. She thought of the battles, the fear, the stories of her mother. She thought of dragons who had once been enemies but now stood as allies. She felt hope, courage, and pride, all at once. Her mother squeezed her hand. "You did it, Ilara. You reminded the galaxy what humans are. Brave, kind, unstoppable in ways even immortals must respect." Ilara nodded. "We all have our marks," she said quietly. "Mine is carrying your story. Yours is showing them that courage survives. And together, we will teach the galaxy that humans are not small. They are everything they need to be, and more." The dragons circled the ship, wings glowing, tails sweeping, their ancient eyes watching the galaxy with renewed respect. For the first time in centuries, they understood humans, not as prey, not as weak creatures, but as allies, teachers, and survivors. And as the ship sped toward the stars, carrying humans and dragons together, the galaxy began to learn a lesson it could not ignore: courage cannot be buried. Memory cannot be erased. And humans are stronger than even the oldest immortals ever imagined. Ilara smiled at her mother. "We did it," she whispered. "We showed them." Mara held her close. "No, child. You did it. And the galaxy will never forget again." The stars stretched out before them, endless and bright, full of danger and promise. But one truth shone clearer than any light: humans teach the immortals that strength is more than power. It is heart. And the galaxy would never underestimate them again.